Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to this edition of the Principal's Office. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jamal Maxsam. I'm an igniter of champion leaders. I ignite teachers to leave and step out of the classroom and be champions of change as leaders within the building, within the district, or as entrepreneurs. And so today is really the first principal's office that we've had since the challenge. If you didn't participate or if you missed the challenge last week, you missed some good material, some good stuff. And so I want you to stay tuned for when I run that challenge again and teach that content again. Now, as we begin, I want to remind you to comment, like, and share, and save this video on whichever social media platform you are watching it on, because this is definitely going to be beneficial to you today, because we are talking about how to create and cultivate an environment of healing. Now, I'm going to just be real with you. This conversation or this topic actually was sparked from something that occurred the weekend prior to this recording on Twitter. And so just to frame it, I will let you know what happened. There was an assistant superintendent that spoke about why she was not leaving education. Because you heard me talk about it, and I talked about it all during the challenge. 90% of educators are ready to quit. That superintendents are ready to quit. Principals are ready to quit. A lot of people are just ready to quit. They are done. And I understand there's a lot of pressure, a lot of mandates and House bills that are being passed down to districts, and a lot of them are unrealistic and really go against best practice. But that's a totally different conversation. And so, but this person said that she didn't feel it was her time to quit simply because of her passion and love for the students. And so she was attacked basically, and attacked personally and called names by several educators who said she was not being empathetic, and said that she was trying to paint a false narrative, and said that the only reason why she wasn't going to quit wasn't because of students, was because of her salary. And so, and because I liked her post, of course someone has something to say about me, which I'm not faded. I'm not faded by criticism. It's one of the things that comes with the territory. And so, but here's the thing that I really thought about. I thought about how this cancel culture and mob mentality has infiltrated education, and has caused people to not be able to share their why genuinely. Because I believe that if she would have said she was quitting, because that's the trend, hashtag watch me leave, hashtag teacher quit, and if she would have said it was my decision to quit, then she would have got congratulations, be strong, you deserve it, all those kind of accolades and affirmations. But because she said it wasn't her season to quit, she was criticized. Now, I want to say this. If it's your season to leave, then do so with honor, do so with wholeness, and do what's best for you. No one's judging you. It's your right to make the decision. If it's your season to stay, do so with honor, do so with wholeness. No one's judging you. You have the right to make the decision that's best for you. And these are things that I talked about during the bonus sessions of the challenge last week when I had the roundtable. Actually, I had two different discussions on the same thing. And so here's what I noticed out of all of that, because I'm getting to the point of today. I noticed that people are hurting more than normal. And we've all been hurting. A lot of us have been hurting once the pandemic started and prior to the pandemic. But I'm recognizing that the people who are hurt and are not really, don't have a way to adequately deal with that hurt and process those hurt emotions, is coming out as anger and frustration. And it is misplaced. And so what we see is a lot of misplaced anger that's being directed towards other people, simply because you're angry about how things are going, or angry about the brokenness of the system, angry at the unfair mandates and rules that are being passed down. It's just too much. And so it's coming out as anger. And unfortunately, it's being directed towards people who even appear like they were involved in the decisions that were made to make it harder. And so it's just going out and being misdirected at people, even strangers. So, what do we do about it? What do we do about this as leaders? What do we do about this as educators in the building? Because you don't have to be a principal to be a leader. You've heard me talk about that. Leadership is influencing people to take action. You can lead as a teacher because you're leading your class for one, but you have influence over your coworkers. You can become a teacher, leader, or principal or assistant and get a title to your leadership, but you're a leader and an igniter already. So, as leaders, as a collective group of educators who have influence, who have passion for kids, passion for the profession, how do we handle all of this anger and frustration, this cancel culture where we can't have dialogue to get understanding, this mob mentality where if you don't agree, then something is wrong with you? How do we eliminate that? Because that's not the kind of environment that we want to foster for children. And if we can't have it as adults, we definitely won't be able to create that kind of climate for children, because you reproduce what you are, not what you desire. So let's dig into today's content and talk about it, because I want to offer some solutions to you. So here's the thing. I just said this in the intro. Educators are dealing with frustration and exhaustion. They're ready to quit. And then we know 90% are feeling burnt out based on the newest and latest survey results that was released by the National Education Association. And so we know that 90% are ready to go. And this burnout, frustration, and exhaustion is being released as anger. A lot of times we see that with students when they're burned out, when they're frustrated and they're exhausted. What does it come out as? Anger. And so we're seeing this same thing with adults of every level: teachers, administrators, principals, superintendents, everybody is just releasing this frustration, this burnout, this exhaustion as anger. Folks are just mad. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Kids are mad too, because some kids are coming back to the school just angry. So what do we do? Let me give you something else. That anger that's being expressed or released may be directed towards you, even though it has nothing to do with you and is not even about you. And it will come from people you know as well as people you don't know. In this world of social media, when you put something out there to encourage people, because this is like a global society now, and when you put something out there to encourage people, to rally people, people who don't know you can get real brave behind a cell phone or behind a computer, and they can personally attack you and your character when they don't even know you. They don't live in the same state. And they can take it to the farthest extreme possible without knowing you or your work or what you really stand for. They can perceive your values based on what you post, but then sometimes because of their anger or frustration, they have this skewed perspective and they see through a dirty lens. So, now, let me tell you something else. The challenges that we all have faced have triggered and caused emotional wounds. And those emotional wounds can be deep rooted. A lot of times emotions that are deep with they it can just come up. An event can trigger them and they will come up, and things that they dealt with or that happened years ago or that they're dealing with now can come back up, and along with the current frustration and disappointment, the disappointment and frustration from that previous situation can also come up, and all of the "I wish I would have handled it this way" comes up with it. So the challenges, they have triggered and caused emotional wounds, and those emotional wounds can often be deep rooted in the different layers of our soul. So here's the result. Here's the solution: to create and cultivate an environment of healing. And cultures and environments take time, take intentionality, and they take strategy. You cannot build a culture without a strategy. A lot of people talk about, and I am the one who quotes it as well, culture trumps strategy. You can't implement a strategy for instruction or curriculum without the culture to support that. But you can't have the culture that supports those other components without being strategic and intentional in building it. So you need to create an environment of healing. You got to have strategy. You need to be intentional. And here are a couple of things I want to give you as you think about how do I intentionally build this environment of healing, at least for the remainder of this school year, so that we can have some kind of peace. Well, here's the first thing. In your environment of healing, you need understanding. You need to be able to listen to understand and not just to be heard. You don't talk just for the sake of making your point. You talk to convey a particular thought or convey vision, convey hope. But when you're listening, it is not to respond, but it's to understand where the person is coming from. And so you have to be hearing not just with your ears, but hearing with your heart. And not just with your head, because if you're hearing with your head, you're processing, but you need to hear with your heart. Hear the emotions. Hear what's really being said beyond the words that are actually being said. And then the next tip, you want to have an outlet where teachers and all adults can express themselves, and you want to encourage open communication. Now, when you have this outlet where people can express themselves, you need to make sure it is clear and made known that there would not be any backlash for expressing themselves, because you can't say, hey, express yourself, and then when they do, you bring it up in an evaluation. That's not this. And if you're doing that, don't do that. Okay. All right. So have it where everyone can express themselves. Then you want to make sure you help everyone have a common understanding or definition of empathy. Sharing your why is not unempathetic. Just because your why is different from someone else's, it doesn't mean you're not empathetic. And just because someone else's why is different than yours, it doesn't mean they're unempathetic and don't understand. So you need to create a common understanding of empathy that allows everyone to share their why without this feeling of being judged, or even without the actual actions of judgment coming against them. And so also here's the next thing. Don't take anything personal, even though attacks may be personal. People may talk about you personally, talk about your salary, talk about your leadership, talk about your character. They may try to down you in a lot of different ways, but you can't take it personally, even though they are making personal attacks, simply because, just like children don't know better, that when people are acting emotionally and out of frustration, they don't know any better because they are not processing anything rationally. They're just acting emotionally. That's why you got to stay calm. You have to stay calm, and you have to stay full of hope. Because if you go off because they went off, then that perpetuates the negative cycle. And I know sometimes it's hard because you don't want to appear weak, and you get tired of people trying to come at you a certain way. So you do have to shut it down. And you have to use wisdom to know when to shut it down and how to shut it down. But you cannot get caught in this tit for tat back and forth, because that only creates more confusion, and it doesn't bring healing and reconciliation. Some people just ain't gonna get it. And I know that wasn't correct English, but I said it that way intentionally. Some people just won't get it, or they won't get it in that moment, and they might not get it over a short period of time. All right, here's the next tip. You want to speak the outcome more than you speak the problem. Speak the outcome more than you speak the problem. Now, a lot of people will have an issue with that, and they'll say, oh, that's toxic positivity and all of those kind of things. But I want to tell you this. Speaking outcome, speaking positive expectations more than you talk about the problem is important. Science proves that when you talk about something and you dwell on it and think about it consistently and talk about it, it actually has a negative impact on your brain cells and on your physical body. And so science proves it already. There's a lot of research about it. If you just research, brain and the thought patterns and the relationship between the brain, your thoughts, and your physical body, you'll see that when you speak about a problem more than you speak about the solution, those negative thoughts impact your brain cells. Chemicals are released in your body that are not good, and then you begin to respond physically a certain way and actually get sick. But here's the thing. You want, as a person of influence, you want to make sure that you have a hope-based perspective, which is not ignoring challenges, but simply being solutions-oriented. Because if you are too busy talking about the problem, how can you focus and be creative on the solution? Because you will have what you focus on, and you will also have what you speak. Because I firmly believe in the powers of words, the power of affirmations, and how they impact not just you emotionally and mentally, but how they impact the environment. So if you're constantly repeating negative messages, constantly complaining, talking about the problem, talking about your supervisor, talking about the people you're leading, if you're in leadership and you're complaining about the teachers, or if all of this complaining and negative talk is going on, your environment will be poisonous and not one of healing. And everything that you talked about would just be perpetuated in the culture of your building. So you have to watch your words. Even if a lot of bad stuff is going on, you don't have to talk about it all the time. You may acknowledge it, you see it, but then you have to constantly look for what is the solution, or how do I navigate through this and keep yourself in a place of positivity, in a place of hope. You are not ignoring, but you're just choosing what you focus on. And so I cannot stress that enough, because there are too many cultures that are negative because people are in the break rooms complaining about admin, or admin are in offices complaining about teachers, or district level personnel are in their offices complaining about schools. All that negative talk is poisoning the culture. So you want to make sure you watch your words. You can't say we're in this together and promote healing and empathy, but then behind closed doors you're doing something else. You can't do it. Okay? Now, here's another piece of advice. Do not feed into the messages of mayhem and the gospel of despair. And that's just what I'm calling it, because people are talking negative. There's a lot of negative self-talk, like I was just saying. There's negative messages all the time. There are people who have low expectations and think that things won't change. That's them. Don't let it be you, and don't let it be the people you lead. Encourage them not to buy into that. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Encourage them to always stay in the place of hope. Even if they can't see any good in the situation, encourage them to look for it and search for it. Because what you look for, you'll find. So don't buy into the gospel or the messages of mayhem or the gospel of despair. All right, so that's it for this week. And so I'm going to ask you this question. How are you going to apply what you heard today? Now, because I know I said a lot, and I said some things that you definitely will make you think. Definitely some things that you can take back for discussion with your team in your building, however that is. But these things that I said, if you take them to heart and focus on implementing them, you can create and cultivate a culture of healing, even right now when the majority of educators are ready to quit, and they're bragging about it and really condemning and judging people who are choosing not to. You can be a person, a beacon of hope, and you can let people know whatever decision you make is okay, but we're still going to have an environment of healing. So that if you decide to leave, you're going to leave whole. And if you decide to stay, you're going to stay whole without emotional wounds being inflicted on you. All right, so if you need help implementing strategy to get this done, then I want you to connect with me right now. You can go to jamalmaxam.org/strategy session. Get on the phone, get on a Zoom call with me, and I will help you. I will sit down and help you plan your strategy to make sure your culture is one of healing and one of hope. I can help you do it because I've done it. And I'm going to tell you, I've been in situations where the climate wasn't perfect because no school culture is going to be. But I tell you this, it was a climate of hope and healing. I tell you that. So go to this address that's on the bottom, jamalmaxam.org/strategy session. Get on a call with me. I will help you map out a strategy and help you determine step by step what you need to do and what you can do based on your particular situation to get these things active in your building before the school year ends. Don't wait until next year to do anything. Do it now. Because this could make the difference between teachers leaving or staying, or between you leaving or staying. The truth be told, is having a culture of healing and a culture of hope. So, get at me. I'm going to listen to and learn your specific situation and not give you a one-size-fits-all solution. I'm going to tell you strategy based on your particular situation. Go to the link that's at the bottom of your screen. All right, so that's it for this week's Principal Office. I will see you next week. Same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the platform that you are watching. Remember to comment, like, share, and save this video. If this tip is being a blessing to you, let me know. Also, let me know in the comments how you're going to apply what you heard today. And if you are on Clubhouse, join me in the Igniting Champion Leaders Club in about 15 minutes from now at 6:10 p.m. Eastern. You have the opportunity. We're going to continue this discussion, and you have an opportunity to share what's going on in your district, how you're doing this, if you're doing it at all, what ideas and thoughts you have based on what I said, or even get some real-time strategy help right then and there in this live call on Clubhouse in the Igniting Champion Leaders Club. So I will see you then. As always, I want you to be successful, and I want you to lead like a champion. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.